I prefer noon.
Noon.
Well, I mean,
Well,
they're
and there's no
DVDs,
reason-
isn't
they're
there any
DVDs,
reason
and
we
I
can't have a
thought-
couple dates? I mean, you
And we
can
could,
go.
and we could do that.
I just-
Oh, I was gonna say, we could do that. You know, I had considered, well, passing it around, but I think that's a terrible idea because they get lost and they will land on somebody's desk and be lost and forgotten and they'll never get passed around.
Right.
So, I think it's better if we just have it in one place so that we can come and do it. You wanna throw out a date? I'm good next week, if we wanna do something next week.
Next Monday.
Sounds good to me. If we can,
Conference room's available all day.
all day, very good. So why don't we do Monday at 1 o'clock? Would that work? Can we get that set up? Monday,
27th.
January 27th? The one issue, okay, the one issue I have though, because there is a potential for a quorum, we do need to notice it, so I don't think we can do it on Monday.
Monday at 1 o'clock.
I don't know if we can do it unless we can get a notice out today.
48 hours.
They
Yeah.
need public notice, you said?
We have to have a
Yeah,
public
because there's a
notice.
potential for a quorum.
Is the
It's
public
48
invited?
hours.
Yeah, I don't think it
No,
I don't
no,
think
but
it
if we're,
stipulates business days, but it has to be.
if we're
48
sitting as a
hours.
group with a quorum, we still
So
have to do
unless we can
public
get something out
notice.
this afternoon.
Depends
I
on
was
how
just
soon you
thinking-
And
guys are
then,
done.
and then we have to be open to the public absent,
That's what I'm wondering.
yeah.
It'd be good if the public were.
Yeah, there, I don't have any problem with the public attending.
Oh, I think it would be great
Um,
if people want to come join us.
What I would like to suggest is whenever we do it, we have an afternoon and an evening showing, so to speak, because it will help a lot with schedules for some people.
Okay.
You know,
Sure.
Maybe, yeah,
Laura, you
I
got
think
a-
we should,
Got a conflict Monday?
Well, Monday's a problem with the notice because of the potential.
well, it's not a problem. If we get it out today, we will be okay.
And you think we can do it?
I think
Can we do it, Mitzi?
Depends on how soon you guys are done.
That's
a good answer.
Hint, hint, nudge.
All right.
Amy, I'm over adjourned.
Cliff seconds.
Can't believe you got to 1 o'clock.
I hear ya, I hear ya. Okay, well, we'll plan on 1 o'clock on Monday and we'll get that set up. Okay, new business.
How about 1 and 5?
One and 5?
Yeah,
Okay.
again, let's, an evening showing. That keeps me from having to take time off of
Okay.
work. I'll come after work.
That's
Um,
perfectly okay.
So who can't make it at 1 can come at 5, is that what
Mhm.
you're
Yeah,
saying?
yep, you can
Yeah.
come to either one.
Well,
Good?
then you probably won't get a, do you even have to notice it if you?
Well, you don't know what you'll get, so.
Just, I mean, there's a potential.
I may be the only one
potential
here
for
at
it.
5.
And that's okay. Okay, so let's move on to new business and
Said 45 minutes.
I meant for this to be like quick, but this never ever happens. So, we have some of the resort board here and, where'd Jessica?
I
Oh,
was right here, so
I was
I
gonna
can
say,
see you guys
maybe you can kind of fill everyone in as what kind of the situation is and what we need to discuss.
Okay, so my name's Jessica Conley, and I do the accounting, I'm the clerk for the St. Regis Resort District. And really, we're here to talk about the clinic and the clinic in St. Regis and the resort district and kind of the role the resort district has with that clinic. So several years ago, the idea to build the clinic, and what happened is the resort district said that they would, let me start over, from the very beginning. There's $144,000 loan that they took, to build that clinic. And it was
We
from
took, right.
the hospital.
Right.
It's also an interesting deal, even though the clinic, had that building, was using that building, it's actually owned by the hospital. So,
Well,
that's why we came to this.
really-
Yeah, that
this
happened before
Right,
the,
because when
The
I.
split apart.
yeah, it happened before the sport.
Right,
At the time, it was a rural health clinic.
Right.
right, correct. And so, anyway, so one of the ways they financed the building is they went to USDA. USDA did kind of this co-signment, or co-signer of Blackfoot Communication as a co-signer on the loan for the hospital. And the resort district said that, you know, as long as it's a clinic, that we would make that debt payment for you guys, for the hospital. And the debt payment is $14,000 a year. And so I guess the first thing is, I guess our question, kind of the resort board, we're just curious, what do you see happening with that clinic first? I was, you know, kind of just hoping to get some input on what you guys think.
Go ahead.
So that's my first question.
I could
Oh,
maybe
well,
speak to that.
let's
Yeah.
let Larry.
Well, yeah, Jessica and I talked on the phone a little bit. We didn't have enough
Right.
time to really visit about it, but, yeah, well, this is really a scrambled situation. It truly is. But that red light loan that
That's okay, I'm hearing
Blackfoot
it.
has, I'm pretty familiar with them. When we built the new hospital up in Malta, we used that as part of our package, a much bigger one, actually, $500,000 or something. It was part of our financing package. But, yeah, the way it works is, well, maybe I can draw it. I mean, the resort tax, and Cliff can help me too here, he's the historian. But there's a $144,000 loan that you guys paid that $14,000 to the hospital, because we own the building, and the Lincoln family donated the land for a 99-year lease. And
Yeah,
so
you
we
leased-
hold
leased the
that.
land.
And the reason it was done probably that way is because the clinic was part of the hospital at that time, since it split off to the regional health center. Then we went to Blackfoot, and there's actually that loan is, you know, $144,000 here, which we have to pay. You know, we use that resort tax money to pay that. Okay. And, you know, the health center, Cindy and I have talked about this, and the health center, they don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we can't, and nobody can really answer that. I mean, you know, they did the same thing we did with the 6-month budget. You know, shut down the region. You know, we didn't shut it down, the clinic did, but, you know, we're sitting there with a vacant building at this point. And we don't know if, you know, you know, if it's gonna open up or not, you know, again. It may,
I really
it may
hope so.
not.
Yeah, I think maybe the best answer we can give you right now is the health center hopes to be able to reopen it.
Right.
At the health center, meaning the clinic.
The clinic, yes.
When I talked to Larry on the phone, Larry goes, he didn't think that there was any way the clinic was gonna be able to reopen it. That's what Larry said. But he did think that maybe the hospital could do something in the clinic, is what we discussed.
We've talked about all kinds of different options, but all of it at this
So-
point is just pure speculation.
And there are some things that in the works with the health center in terms of a strategic alliance that may also allow us to bring some services back to St. Regis through that building. So, I mean, the goal is not to forget St. Regis. We would like to do something, but we're like the hospital. Step one is getting to the point where we can actually pay our bills. And then after we got to where we can pay our bills and hopefully are starting to climb up, we can start to bring some things back. But Larry's absolutely right. We don't know for sure right now. Can't make you any promises. That's the one thing I can say, but we do not want to permanently close.
I have a solution, though, in terms of this debt, okay? You know, most lenders I've ever worked with will have a forbearance clause, I mean. So I would suggest that if you could go back to the Resort Tax Board, and I will work on this with, I haven't yet, I left several messages, but with, you know, the fellow, Bill Squires, the president of Blackfoot Telephone, has been, well, he sent us a letter, and we've got to, you know, report some things. But what I would propose with all of this is that we just put this on hold for, including the debt payments. You know, I'm going to ask him if he can go back to USDA Rural Development, who this loan comes through. They'll usually, if there's something like this where a building is vacant or, you know, services are not being delivered, or, you know, the building, you know, the borrower can't, you know, make the payments, and we can't really without your resort tax board money. But it would be better for you and for us probably to just ask USDA if they'll allow us to stop payment for 6 months. And then we'll revisit it. I mean, you know, the Resort Tax Board can sit down, we'll sit down, Health Center can sit down with everybody, and the thing should be kind of, you know, should come clear at that point, you know. We'll have a better idea if we are gonna have services, you know, in the clinic, but does that make sense? You know, that if we try
I
that?
think that's a good option. So what the resort board has kind of directed me to bring to your board, this is what they would like, is they would be more than happy to continue to make that payment, but they would like it to be open a minimum of 24 hours a week, and they would like that to be started by March 1st. And so I don't know if that's gonna be possible. That is that's what they would like. And then they would be more than happy to continue making that payment, you know, for the next 8 years. As long as you keep, you know, keep the clinic open for a minimum of 24 hours. So there's that option. From a timing standpoint, I don't know if you can meet that March 1st. Yeah, I mean, you guys seem like you're actually in a more financial, stressful situation than I thought you guys were in.
Oh, man.
I really did not know,
Yeah.
kind of how bad it was down here. So, the other thing the board would want you to possibly consider is they could just assume the loan if we legally could and just take ownership of the building. And you guys could just wipe your hands of it and not have to worry about it anymore. And that might be good for your liability too, get rid of the whole liability, so.
Well, that isn't the only cost in the clinic though. There was $75,000 of grant funds, and then we still owe, well, we borrowed another about $73,000 from the local
Right.
bank.
Right, no, I know that's not the only cost, it's just an option for you guys.
Yeah, I just for information.
Yeah.
So it would leave us holding the bag for $75,000 if we accepted that offer.
Well, 73 plus whatever we might have to pay back on, but worth it 75 on the grant. 'Cause,
You know, that grant wasn't contingent upon that.
Okay.
It was money it was grant money given basically.
That was the Human
before.
Resource Council grant?
Yeah, I believe so,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, all
Out
right.
of Missoula.
Right, so
Okay.
your loss would be just the 70,000.
This 73, yeah.
73,000.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. Well, and I'll Larry, you can talk to Cindy and pass that on to her too. And, I mean, the health center wants to bring some services back to St. Regis. We don't want to just wash our hands of it and walk away. And in fact, under our HRSA grant, we are obligated to try to bring services throughout the community. And I think the Health Center Board really feels strongly about wanting to meet it. I mean, we're on there to bring the health services. We're not there
Right,
just to run a
And the resort board,
business.
truly,
So.
what they would want is for you guys to, that would be the best situation for us.
Yeah,
Is to have you guys bring service there. And that's really what we want. But if that can't happen, then that option two of us owning the building, is also an option.
There are some other services that the health center is obligated under the grant to bring that it hadn't in the past been making an effort to bring and will now be doing so.
Is the CHC grant?
Yep.
Yeah.
Some of those services include dentistry and some mental health services. We're working on trying to get some of those
Are
things.
you on the clinic board too?
I am on the
Yes.
clinic board too.
Yeah.
And we're trying to get some of those things set up. That's again in part why we're talking about some form of strategic alliance. In terms of the hours of operation, one of the things that's real clear, and I know Cindy's talked about this a lot, and I think Larry has too, is that you basically need X number of patients per provider hour. So that what we would have to do when we go to reopening, presuming we can get to that point, is look at, okay, how many patients a week were we seeing there? Based on that, that's going to tell us how many hours of staffing we can afford to give. And then if we see the patient load rise, obviously we can increase the staffing load. But we can't look at 24 hours and say, and maybe it works, I don't know. But we can't look at 24 hours and say that's what they want, that's what we're gonna give. We have to look at, okay, what can we reasonably expect for patient load? That's how many hours of staffing we can afford to put there. Because you have to pay a provider the whole time you're open, and if they're not seeing patients, there's no revenue coming in to cover those costs.
I
And
mean, there wasn't 24 hours being provided before.
yeah, I
it was
don't
like
even know what the
8,
hours
right?
were.
Yeah, I think it was only 8.
Yeah.
And it takes 3.
No.
There was much more than that. It was
No, there
open
was
Monday,
3 days they were
Wednesday afternoon,
Oh.
and Friday.
Yeah, I don't know
I think it was
myself.
16.
Well, that's 12.
That,
Yeah,
yeah.
Wednesday, I think
Well, it was.
Wednesday.
That
I
sounds
think it
right.
was 16.
I'm not gonna sit here and tell you, I'm sure what the hours were.
Yeah, I don't
I'd
know.
like to ask you, do you know how much patient load there was there when it was operating?
I do not have that answer, no.
I've got it.
But it was a money loser?
Yes.
It was costing us a lot more money to operate than it was bringing in. And we're not, and understand something, that's okay to a certain level because that's what the HRSA grant is all about. It's okay to lose a little money, but what has to happen is the combination of the revenue it brings us plus the HRSA grant funding to cover it breaks even. Because we're not a for-profit organization, but we have to be able to meet our costs, and we actually have to bring in enough so that we can replace pieces of equipment and beds and things like that as that needs to happen. But we're not looking at profit.
So how do you guys see us going forward from here? So what did we get out of this meeting? So you know what the resort board is hoping, or what our options are, and
What do we?
where do we go from here?
We almost need we almost need the health center board in here too, because
Yeah.
we don't make that decision for
Yeah, and I don't.
running the
I would
clinic.
say, Jessica, that
Yes.
as you could get a feel here, the hospital's been bleeding financially.
Right.
I think we're stemming that. The same thing is true with the health center, or the clinic.
Clinic.
That's been stopped. I
Yeah, we
think
should
that
go back to
the
temporary.
report we got the other day shows the first 2 weeks in January, we actually made money. So we're moving in the right direction. That's one dimension. It's very healthy. Another item is that, like John says, we're obligated to provide service to residents of Mineral County. We use a sliding scale for revenue,
It's a great service.
and that's, we haven't advertised that at all. That's gonna bring people to us. We're gonna start with a dental clinic, a mobile dental clinic out of Missoula. And if that works, there's no reason why we couldn't have a dental clinic in St. Regis. There are things like that that we are looking at, and I personally am very positive that something like that'll happen.
Yep.
So I guess I just.
But we
ask you to
can't
be-
promise the St. Regis community that that will happen, though.
No,
think
I
that-
didn't say
That's
it
pretty
will.
important.
Yeah.
But those are the things we are examining.
Yeah, I think for Jessica's, what does she go back to? You're asking, what does she go back to the board with?
Right, we're
And
going
I-
back to the board. So I can say, I would assume that there's no way that we're gonna be open 24 hours by March 1st.
I think that's
So that's
pretty
fine.
safe.
Yeah.
That's
I don't
safe.
think-
That's a safe, I can.
Yeah,
I
that's
can
safe.
safely say that,
Yes, ma'am.
and I can say,
Well, like,
So-
I shouldn't be saying that because it's Cindy's decision.
Yeah,
It is Cindy's, but
it is,
is it?
it's
Cindy, 'cause
Cindy's
you were
decision,
saying- when-
yeah.
When you and I were talking, you said that you were thinking of having like Bruce McClellan come up there.
We talked to
'Cause you were
Bruce
thinking
about
the clinic is not gonna reopen, but you had, the hospital
He
had
has
choices.
expressed some interest in doing that, but I'm just not sure how that would work.
So really, so now you're saying, so now.
He has
so I'm
expressed some
clear.
interest in
okay,
it.
who's Bruce McClellan? Just
So I'm
Right.
clear.
ENT specialist.
He's a very
Ah,
careful.
Oh,
okay,
he's a doctor.
Yeah,
Okay,
he's a
okay,
doctor.
okay,
Yeah,
gotcha.
he's a
I was
doctor.
Oh, I'm
going,
sorry.
I wasn't making the connection,
Yeah,
okay, okay.
Your nose,
So-
Gotcha.
So,
great
so
doctor.
just so I'm clear, really, I need to go talk to the clinic. Cause you guys are saying, as a hospital, you guys would never have any service there, most likely. I mean, not so cut and dry, but really that's what, you see, originally, I mean, we came here because Cindy told me, we have nothing to do with the building, we don't own it, go talk to the hospital. So I come here.
Well,
But I just wanna
yeah.
make sure we're clear.
Ping pong.
Well,
Yeah.
and I understand what's happening to you, and I apologize for that. That kind of comes out of this convoluted form of ownership. And Cindy's right, the health center doesn't have any ownership interest in terms of who pays what loan and et cetera, et cetera. I think Larry's approach of trying to get the 6 months forbearance in place is a really,
Yeah.
really good one to
Right.
buy us some time.
Right.
um,
That was my point, is to
and-
buy us some time so that we can.
We can
work all
figure
this
it
stuff
out.
I think we'll have a clearer picture from both parties, all
Right,
three parties,
yeah.
you
Right.
know.
Okay.
Um,
on June
the
30th.
clinic wants to bring you services. We're not at a point where we can make any commitment yet. But, and I can, other than I'm pretty darn sure it isn't gonna happen by March 1st. But
Are
we
you
do
also-
wanna bring you services.
Okay, okay, so I think maybe I'll go and talk to the clinic board also.
That makes sense.
Yeah, but for them, it doesn't really I mean, it matters
They don't
to the
care
hos-
about the loan.
Yeah, they don't care about the loan.
Right.
Right, they
But
don't
you
care
guys
about
do
the
care
loan.
about the loan.
Right.
So it's kind of an interesting situation, but, so I think
Yeah,
Yeah.
the tangled webs.
So this is, I think I'll go talk to the clinic and see what their thoughts are. And then, I guess you can see if we can get like an extension then.
I'll
Yeah.
talk to, yes, I'm gonna talk
Like
to
a
the,
forbearance,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And then.
me with names, but,
I
Bill
guess
Squires.
The last thing is, are you guys going to consider at all possibly just signing over the building? Maybe, possibly, don't know.
Yeah, it's probably in a don't know. I mean, it's
Yeah.
obviously something we'd consider.
Okay,
I think we'd rather bring you services.
we would rather have
Um,
services.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
if you
again,
can't bring us services, we would rather have the building so we can get our own services.
yep, I hear you. The health center is committed, and every member of that board is there because we want to bring these services to this community, and I don't mean just Superior, I mean the whole
Okay.
county.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's where we want to go, and I'm cautiously optimistic that some of the things we're looking at right now will let us do that, but none of them have gone far enough to fruition that I can say they're going to happen for sure.
So, also, just to be clear, that, and I don't mean this to sound harsh or whatever, but the resort district won't be making that payment in March, just so you guys are aware and you can budget for that. They
Okay.
won't be making that payment.
Okay, fair enough.
Along those lines, were you able to find agreements
No.
or, I mean, because we had talked about this a little bit, but
Cliff
you've
and I
been digging,
looked.
I mean, you've been
Yeah.
digging trying to
No, so-
find some executed agreement.
There's none that I can find.
And there wasn't, the resort board wasn't on the loan, it was just the hospital, from what I understand too,
Mhm.
so.
And we have that, I mean, because you have the loan agreement and it is just
Sure,
the hospital.
Sure,
Yeah, and then there was just, you know, there was supposedly was a signed agreement, and I think Cliff said that he, you know, when I was talking to you on the phone, you're like, oh yeah, that does sound kind of familiar.
Cliff
is
scoured
what-
his files.
What Cliff said, but
Have-
nobody
I-
can find
I-
it.
Did you check with the county attorney by the way?
I did, I actually sent Marcia an email, she's the one that, drafted it, but,
Mhm.
you know, but she doesn't have a signed copy.
Okay.
Yeah, her response was, why would
I think-
nobody
Yeah.
ever gives me anything back signed. I'm like, okay, Marcia.
I'm speculating
I'm
here,
not
but
really surprised though,
Yeah.
because we're finding a lot of things that never really were executed.
Right,
Um,
so that's kind
In-
of where we
in the-
stand on
in
that.
the-
But
in
we
the-
would love to make the payment if you have a service there. That's
Right.
all that's really how
we
we
hear
want
you.
to.
we hear you.
Understood.
Yeah.
Sure.
In the file here, it was kind of interesting, there is an opinion by, I forget, it's a previous county attorney, I think, that talks about, I mean, you can't commit tax money in future periods, right, John? What do they call that, you know, legally?
Oh, I forget the term for it, but basically you'd be
Right.
binding a future board that.
So it may have been,
um,
right, exactly, and with the resort tax, I mean, and, you know, maybe the document was drafted, and it, you know, extended into the future, I'm assuming, you know, to make those payments for a long period of time, you know, for that
And
loan.
we were told that we could not commit 10 years
Yeah.
total. And the only thing we could commit was the next year. We put 3 years' money in a safe deposit, so we'd have that, then
Oh, okay.
we pay out of our other funds up to that point. So if we ever run out of money, we'll have 3 more years that we could pay on it.
Oh, okay.
And just another thing, when that was first brought up, you know, they started running a little old bus up there with a doctor on it, you know, and stuff. because Plains was gonna build a clinic in St. Regis, and they wanted to get ahead of Plains, so they started running that up there. Then they promised us a clinic there that, to start with, was gonna be run 5 days a week, they were gonna put a dentist in it, and I don't know what all. Well, then it come up to 2.5 days, and then down to another half off of that. And, you know, I work across the street from there, there's cars there absolutely all day long when that thing's open. Now, I don't know if they were all there for nothing, or if they were playing cards or what, but they were parked out there.
It
There was
was,
a lot of cars.
when
I
I
think
was
it's
there,
relative.
yeah.
I think
was
it's
always
relative.
people
I mean, yeah, it looks like it's busy, but.
And it looks to me, well, and it looks to me like you're cutting a lot of hospital business out, because them people send people down to the hospital. And if there's nobody there to send them, you know, maybe they'll come down here and maybe they'll go to Plains, it's not much farther, so.
Well,
It
like,
would be interesting at some point to see what the numbers were.
well, I
From the
saw the
clinic,
numbers, I've
from-
got them
yeah.
somewhere.
We can get those.
I think those
Yeah, it would
numbers are
just be
about 100
interesting.
patients a month, 100 patient visits a month, and that is not very many patient visits.
I don't think
I
that
think
that's
that's,
right.
yeah, either way,
Those are
we're not,
Cindy's numbers.
either way, whatever it is, we'd be curious, you know, but anyway, that's where the resort board stands. And we just really hope you get services back there, or,
Well, and we want to, we
Yeah.
really do.
right.
I mean, that's, the whole reason we're here is to bring the services to the community.
And that's one thing, if you guys don't do anything, we're gonna be looking for services, and I think we already have some lined up, but, you know, that's just, it's gotta be there. There are a lot of people there that can't afford to drive to Superior. You know,
Yeah, no,
just like
and-
people in Superior, if you had the clinic in St. Regis, they couldn't afford to drive up there.
Yep, understood,
Yeah.
understood.
Good, okay. Oh,
Um,
I know him, I do know him. Yes, yeah, okay.
Thank you, folks.
Thanks, you guys.
Thanks very much.
Thanks a
So
lot.
is there any way, so Jessica, are you gonna try and meet with the health center board next week at some point,
I
or,
think so it's the 30th, you guys said? What did you
Yeah,
said, the 30th at
30th.
1?
or,
30th at 1, I
Over
think.
over the other building.
Yeah, why
Yeah,
don't
we'll
you
go-
stick your head across the street and find Cindy right now on the way home and see, ask her to get you on the agenda and,
Okay.
um,
I think really I need to talk to them. I thought I would needed to come here. I kinda need to do both.
you need to
I
do
think.
both, I
Because
think.
we
I
own
think
the
you're right,
building.
yeah.
yeah, Thursday the 30th at 1, yeah.
Okay. I
Yep.
think I'll do that, and then, I guess there's not a whole lot of follow-up with your board.
Well,
I mean,
we'll-
unless you guys wanna assign us the building. That's the only thing I can.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess other than, and Larry will
If
work
the
on the
forbearance doesn't
forbearance,
work out,
so-
but,
maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll
Okay.
see where it goes from
Okay,
there.
then
Yep,
I'll contact Cindy and get on that agenda.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jessica.
thanks.
I'm glad to know where we are with that. There was kind of up in the air what, I wasn't sure what they wanted to do. Okay, organizational chart, I think we already
We
did
already
that.
took, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, finance committee report.
Well, the December is a net loss of 13.6. In November, we had 40,800. Gonna tilt a little bit the wrong way. The gross hospital patient revenue increased from $553,556 to $570. Can't even say this, $570,580. The negative part of is that, well, first off, the expense is decreased. And then we had, charity care for December was 5,573. The hospital OP visits were only 500, or 450 versus our old budget of 617.
That's really where the difference,
Right, that's,
the shortfall is.
a key number.
So next month, we'll have our revised, it will be compared to our new budget? Is that, so next month? I'm glad you put that it's compared to the old budget note on there.
The assisted living is 89 at this time of the report, but they now have it 100%.
last 2 weeks, right? Filled it up.
The non-skilled beds are below budget. But our skilled beds are way above the budget, which is quoted, saving our bacon.
That was Cliff's turn.
Patient revenue is above budget at 32,798 because of the high number of skilled days. The outpatient revenue is below, there's budget at 73,000 due to their low numbers. The operating expense is under budget. The contract labor is over budget due to the contract labor as well as Larry's in that number. Repair and maintenance is over budget because they replaced 2 heating pumps. Utilities is over budget due to using the backup boilers when the biomass was not working. And we ran that for 2 weeks, so that proves the justification of getting the biomass was a good idea. Our interest and finance expense is over budget due to the changes in late payments. Since we don't have the cash flow, we're not making some of our payments to our suppliers, which then charges late payments.
So I have a question. We never saw November's financials. We never approved November's financials.
No, we never approved them, but they were sent out.
We sent them out after.
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
but
Right, yeah.
we never approved them. My other question is with regard to our accounts receivable and accounts payable. Guess that would come in here. I'm glad to see the payables are starting to come down. Is there anything that we need to know with reference to that? We're still just continuing to work through those?
They came down last month, but they've, since gone back up a bit. We haven't had the cash to keep paying them down. It's a fluid situation.
Well, it is, because the receivables have also gone back up.
Right.
So,
Part of that is the flux of different types of services. When you have outpatient services, you can bill those on a daily process and keep your cash a little more coming in on even keel. When we have lower outpatient services, and even though we have a lot of skilled patients, we can only bill those once a month. So all of those charges hold until the end of the month, when we can release that claim and then have it paid, so.
And they're big dollar.
what's the
Big
turnover
dollars,
once you
so-
bill it? How long does it take to get?
Well, the claims that went out, December 30th, January 4th or 5th was when they were actually billed, are set for payment, and we should be getting about 280,000 between now and, the 29th of the month.
So those are for
So-
payables that went out in of December.
Yes.
So that would put us at, should be 60 days max. But we're, right, at
There's-
receivables, but we're still
Yeah.
way over
That's
that.
very good performance if you got them down to that.
Well, if that's our benchmark.
Oh, okay.
Is 60 days, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
What do we do to get it
Well,
down to 60 days?
we still have old claims out there that we continue to go through and find that,
Mhm.
that haven't paid, and that we're doing, extensive work on. Part of what slowed us down in December was, and I think there's some discussion for the Next Gen project as well. We spent probably 2 full weeks working on preparing to convert to Next Gen. And so our time that we spent, trying to call on claims and do accounts receivable also cut part of that Next Gen time, cut into that. So we are back on the move. with the AR, I spent all weekend again looking through aging reports and finding accounts that have not paid that we need to call and check status on and those sorts of things, so,
And does-
yeah, we continue to, you know.
The time starts clicking from the date of service, right? Okay.
There are no claims out there at this point that are, that I've identified that are over a year old or gonna be at a year old. We cleaned most of those up in November.
And we had a lot of cash
And
flow
we
in
had a lot
November
of
from
cash
that.
flow in November as well.
Or
so-
December, because of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So, it's a, you know, it's a bit of a moving target. The outpatient stuff keeps you on an even flow so that your money's coming in a little more timely instead of just huge lump sums of money that comes in, you know, at the end of each month because you can't bill those claims out for a whole month. So.
How much of that
that's part of
balance,
it.
Cliff and Deb, too, are the self-pays, you know, I call them slow pays, no pays.
That probably still holds right around that $500,000 mark, you know, between 500,000 and 600,000 is.
What's that percent, what is that in percentage wise?
Days.
As to the outstanding?
As days in AR, you mean?
Mhm.
Well,
About 30, well, yeah, about a third.
yeah, an AR day is worth what, about 23 still? That's kind of a moving target depending on, you know, what you have as well for revenue, but, so, you know, there's a good 25 days of AR.
I think that's the
in
real
your
key. We talked at one
self-pay.
point, I don't know if you talked to the board about it, but there's a company out there, you know.
And we did talk about that.
You know, and we need to, most places I've been in the last 10 years anyway, you know, we've seen these companies come up and some are better than others. Deb is aware of a very good company in Great Falls that we just haven't had time to deal with it, but it gets it off our books and then, you know, and they're good about working it, working those payables. It's kind of unfair almost to classify those very long-term payers